The story takes a tragic start when all people start screaming, pleading to let them live as the vampires approach them. As a mother tries to hide her children, the vampires break into the house and kill the parents. However, it all turns out to be a dream when the girl named Du Xiaojin opens her eyes. On the campus, the students are talking about offering blood to His Highness, but Xiaojin seems to have no concern about depraved people who please vampires. As Du is carrying the papers into the music classroom, she encounters Roy, the prince of the campus. After witnessing that he is a vampire, she runs off from there immediately. As she tries to escape, Roy grabs her hand, assuming she is trying to draw his interest. But Xiaojin attempts to leave. The vampire grabs her forcefully as her blood smells nice and decides to choose her as a blood servant. As Du despises vampires, she runs out from there and scratches the prince's face. This provokes him too, so he furiously holds her by hand and heads up to the campus terrace and announces that from now on, Du Xiaojin is his enemy. It is revealed to us that it is a world where vampires and humans coexist, and since humans lost the battle, from then on, humans have become vampire tools. Highness Roy hates humans, thinking they are greedy and cowards, as a story is uncovered that Roy's blood servant named Flay, who used to take care of Roy, promised that she would stay with him forever, but ruthlessly abandoned him. As Du Xiaojin is going out, some student approaches her and starts teasing her for getting involved with Roy, but as Du tries to leave, the girl grabs her hair, causing her braid to open. Suddenly, Roy could see a glimpse of Flay in her because Xiaojin had incredibly long hair, but he chose not to save her until she begged for mercy. After that, the poor girl Du confronts a group of boys. As she runs away, they start chasing her. She pleads for help, but she knows that no one will help her. Xiaojin runs for her life when suddenly a mysterious girl makes her fall down the stairs, which makes Du gravely injured. The helpless girl lies on the ground and blood flows from her head. She apologizes to her brother Zhao Ling for being useless and collapses. After that, Roy gets to know that Du Xiaojin fell from the stairs. At first, he doesn't seem to care, but when he gets to know that a group of guys with ill intentions took her, instigated by Meija the vampire, Roy loses his cool and chooses to save her. The scene diverts to Du Xiaojin, who is tied up, and Meija orders the boys to leave her at their disposal. In the meantime, Prince Roy arrives and furiously asks them to get away from Du and orders Meija to get out of the room. Master Roy holds Du Xiaojin and takes her into the palace. Later, he meets up with the chair of the campus, Lao Dor, also, and his brother, who warns him to be careful with the girl as he's the candidate for the upcoming election. Lao Dor abruptly confesses the reason why Roy took the girl with her because she looked like Flay that made him save Xiaojin. Later, Roy enters Du Xiaojin's room, witnessing Du flee from the window towards the forest. The crows followed Xiaojin. Roy immediately ran into the woods to save her. As he chases her, she falls from the end street, but luckily she is held by Roy as he grabs her hands. They are hung onto a weak tree branch that breaks, and both are knocked to the ground. Roy starts bleeding and loses a lot of blood, which affects his regeneration. To save him, Xiaojin offers her blood, but he refuses. Later, Roy holds her in his arms so she can't escape again, but Du insists on finding another way out as she can't be deluded by a vampire. Roy warns Xiaojin not to go into the forest without him because it's dangerous as miasm lingers around the wood and no human can come back alive. They make their way into the dark forest. As they hold hands and walk together, Xiaojin hates being touched by Roy as she hates the Blood Clan, so she runs off into the woods alone and witnesses that miasma has her surrounded. Suddenly, she gets a glimpse of his brother who tells him that vampires have defiled her, which disgusts him, and poor Xiaojin falls into a dark hole unconscious. The next day, she wakes up from a dream she saw about his brother and notices that the window had been barred off, but she can't remember anything. After that, Roy enters the room as Xiaojin shouts to open her door. He reminds her of offering her blood last night. However, Du remembers everything that happened last night, and Roy explains to her that whoever goes into the forest starts forgetting and hallucinating things. Roy threatens her to be his blood servant, or her brother Zhao Long will take her place. It is revealed to us that Zhao Ling, Zhao Nix's brother, is waiting for her to come back from school. It turns out that Zhao Ling has severe heart disease, and his sister has been attending the capital campus school owned by vampires to get scholarships for his disease treatment. Meanwhile, a girl from Du Xiaojin's class tells Zhao Ling that Prince Roy has captured her sister to become his blood servant. Master Roy finds it troublesome because her blood servant Xiaojin hasn't eaten for 2 days. Roy furiously enters the room, and she asks him to let her go home only for today. Therefore, after a while, it is told by the servants that Zhao Ling has come to meet Prince Roy, but Zhao Jin doesn't seem to be happy to see his brother here, as Du doesn't want Long to get involved with a vampire. However, Roy forcefully takes her and tells her to listen quietly. Roy meets up with Zhao Ling, who begs to leave his sister, but suddenly he falls unconscious on the ground and his sister rushes towards him. The doctor gives her brother treatment and tells them he needs to get hospitalized. Roy was shocked to see that they were in hardship. Later, Zhao Jin also faints, and Roy grabs her. When she wakes up, Roy instructs her to eat as she is too weak. Roy feeds her the soup, and she swallows, as Du also has to take care of her brother. After Du meets her brother at the hospital, she is happy to see her brother and is determined to take care of him. Roy notices her smile for the first time and tells her it's time to go back, to which she agrees and leaves him. Roy seems surprised as he thinks that Du might refuse to go with him, but she says she won't run away again or resist pointlessly. To protect her brother, she would endure anything and agrees to be his blood servant. Later at night, Roy asks his friend Zin to investigate something about Zhao Ling and Zhao Jin. His friends assume that Roy has fallen in love with her. The next day, Zhao Jin comes to school and is again targeted by a group of girls. Luckily, she is saved by Sanai, a member of the disciplinary committee who shows up at the scene. Sanai saves Zhao Jin and treats her bruise, and she got hurt by the girls. Sanai confesses that he wants to help her as she's human. However, as they both walk together outside, Roy witnesses her roaming with another guy, which makes him jealous. Roy shows up in front of them and takes Du Zhaozhong from there. Roy becomes angry at Zhaozhong and warns her not to walk around with other people. However, he notices the wound on her face, which makes him furious as students target her because of him. Roy decides to give Zhao Jin minor punishment, but if he watches her entangle with another person, he won't spare and unexpectedly orders her to take off her clothes. The helpless girl has no choice but to endure it for the sake of her brother. The next day, as she is walking the campus hall, Du encounters Sanai, but she avoids him as per Roy's rule and warns him not to get involved with her. As she leaves, Sanai witnesses bite marks on her neck, but Sanai doesn't seem to turn a blind eye on her. Zhao Jin enters Roy's palace and confesses that she has not done anything to violate her promise. As Roy owns her like a private object, he takes Du to the palace balcony and teaches her dance skills. As they practice, Roy orders his blood servant to attend the vampire ball with him, so she must prepare well. Du is shocked as she has to attend a vampire ball and leaves the balcony. In the meantime, Zin arrives, telling Roy that he had participated in the ball himself, but Roy intends to take her as he is possessive about her and the only person that can protect Zhao Jin. After that, Roy goes after Du while she runs toward the water fountain, thinking about why Roy would want to bring her to the ball. As she is figuring things out, Chairman Labor appears to tell Zhao Jin that her hair resembles Roy's prior blood servant Flay and abruptly pushes Du into the water fountain. Laudor explained the story of Roy's favorite blood servant Flay when he was a child, but she ran away and abandoned him. A moment later, Laudor's brother Roy arrives and informs his brother not to lecture his blood servant and helps her to get up. Zhao Jin seems flustered as Roy seems concerned about him, and he warns her to stay away from his brother. As Zhao Jin gets into her room, Roy tells her not to catch a cold, and while Du falls asleep, she dreams of a strange woman which makes her awake. The other day, Zhao Jin got a phone call from her school when she learned that her brother was in critical condition. Du gets worried and attempts to leave the campus, but she can't leave as it's forbidden. She pleads with the guards, but they don't let her leave. Meanwhile, Sanai arrives and tells her how to get out of the school. He asks her to take Roy's nobility badge, which is a valuable thing to vampires, and she can leave the school quickly as Roy will be busy with the party, so he won't be able to keep an eye on her. But Zhao Jin decides to ask Roy first, but he refuses to meet her brother and instead tells her to do the dance practice at home. Now Du had only one way to escape from the school, so she stealthily stole the badge and barged out of the campus. Oddly, Sanaya was already waiting for her outside, so he decided to go with Du to the hospital. Suddenly, they witnessed someone telling them, knowing that Zhao Jin had stolen the badge, but Sanai tells her to go to the hospital and meet up with her brother, and he will distract him. She finally meets her brother, who is just fine. Zhao Jin thinks deeply. She realizes something is wrong and that she has missed Roy's badge. She discovered someone was behind Roy's badge. However, as she leaves the hospital, Roy is waiting for her outside. He asks Zhao Jin while she left the campus and who helped her. At that moment, Zhao Jin makes the right decision and honestly tells Roy that she took her nobility badge, which makes him angry and punishes her. He punishes her against a tree and sucks her blood. Zhao Jin appears to be in pain, but she tells Roy before he abandons his blood servant she wants to help him find the badge so that she doesn't owe him anything. Shortly after that, Zhao Jin faints in his arms, and Roy thinks she still wants to help him even at this moment. Later it turns out that Du wakes up after 2 days, which is Vampire Ball Day. As she decides to ask someone about Roy, she overhears the maids talking about how Roy would be criticized without a nobility badge and that he might be in big trouble at the ball at this time. Zhao Jin becomes troubled and decides to attend the ball with Roy and help him. Later she encounters Roy's best friend Xin, who offers a ride and helps her to reach Roy as he knows she is planning to go to the ball. Xin also decides to give Zhao Jin a makeover for the ball as the Blood Clan is a momentous occasion to show off noble power. Hence Zhao Jin, his blood servant, has to look good for the ball for someone like Roy as a candidate for the Council of Elders. We witness that the guards stop Roy from going inside the ball without his blood servant or his badge and ask him to give him an invitation card. In the meantime, Zhao Jin arrives at the ball looking incredibly beautiful. That's all for today, folks. If you liked our video, give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.